Hi guys, Dave here and welcome to my channel. So in today's video we're going to be going over triads. So a quick description of triads would be a 3-note chord. That is basically what a triad is. So triads, learning where all your triads are and how to play them is really important, as it will help you be more creative on the guitar. You can write solos with triads, and you can also write second guitar parts and chord progressions just by playing triads. So in this video I'll be showing you how to play the triads, not so much how to use them. That'll be for another video. Okay, so our major and minor triads are comprised of the major chord being a root, a major third and a fifth interval. If you don't know about intervals, you can check my video up here and that will explain intervals for you. A minor chord is made up of a root, a minor third and a fifth. So I'll be showing you these intervals in different combinations, which we call inversions. So we've got the root position, we've got the first inversion, and we've got the second inversion. So the root position would be from lowest to highest, root, third, fifth. Then we'd have our first inversion, which would be the same notes, but our third would be the lowest note. So we'd go third, fifth, root, from lowest to highest. And then our second inversion would be the fifth as the lowest note. So it'd be fifth, root, third. So I'm going to show you all these combinations across all different strings and in all the inversions. So stay tuned and we'll get straight into it now. Okay, so for all the triads I'm going to be showing you today, the lowest note, the note in the bass, will be on the 5th fret, and that'll just make things a bit easier for reference. So first of all, let's go over all of our major triads. So first of all, we'll start with our root position. So from lowest to highest, we're going root, major third, and fifth. So starting from the lowest string, the E string, we're going to place our little finger on the 5th fret, our ring finger on the 4th fret, and our index of the A string, and our index finger on the 2nd fret of the D string. And it should sound like this. Okay, and our root note, which is our lowest note here, would be the name of the chord. So in this case, A. So it'd be an A major triad. Okay, now let's move down to the A string, and we're going to play the exact same shape starting on the A string. So we're going to play our little finger on the 5th fret of the A string, our ring finger on the 4th fret of the D string, and our index finger on the 2nd fret of the G string. And that will make a D major triad. And now we're going to go to the D string, G string and B string. So our ring finger is going to be on the 5th fret of the D string, our middle finger is going to be on the 4th fret of the G string, and our index finger is going to be on the 3rd fret of the B string. And that makes a G major triad. And these shapes are all movable, so you can move them up and down the neck, as long as you keep the position the same for the right strings, then you're good to go. And then the last 3 strings, the G, B and E strings, we're going to place our ring finger on the 5th fret of the G string, we're going to place our little finger on the 5th fret of the B string, and we're going to place our index finger on the 3rd fret of the E string. And we've got a C major triad in root position. Okay, so all of those inversions, all of those triads so far have been in root position. Now we're going to move to our first inversion. So first inversion will have the 3rd in the bass, and then our second note will be the 5th, and then the 3rd note will be the root. So first of all, let's play our 5th fret on the E string, and then what I like to do is I bar the A and the D string with my index finger on the 3rd fret. Okay, and because our highest note here is our root note, that's an F, and that is what our chord is going to be. So we've got an F major triad in our first inversion. Okay, now let's move down, and we're going to play the same thing again, just one string higher. So our ring finger on the 5th fret of the A string, and then barring the D and the G string with our index finger at the 3rd fret. Okay, and our root note is obviously the highest note again, so that's a B flat, so our chord is a B flat major. Okay, now on the D, G and B strings, what we're going to do is we're going to play our ring finger on the D string on the 5th fret, our index finger on the 3rd fret of the G string, and then our middle finger on the 4th fret of the B string. And there's our first inversion chord. And that note there, our highest note, is a E flat, so this is an E flat major chord. And then our first inversion on the highest 3 strings would be index finger on the 5th fret of the G string, and then bar the 4th fret of the B and E strings with your index finger. And that is another major triad, so this is a G sharp or an A flat major triad. Okay, now let's look at the second inversion. So we're going to be playing major triads in the second inversion, which means our 5th is going to be in the bass. So our first chord is going to be this one. So we're going to place our middle finger on the 5th fret of the E string, our ring finger on the 5th fret of the A string, and our index finger on the 4th fret of the D string. And because our root note is the 2nd note, we're going 5th, root, 3rd. This is going to be the name of the chord. So this note is a D, so this is a D major triad in second inversion. Okay, now let's move everything down one string, and we've got our next second inversion chord, and that is going to be a G major, because this note here is our root note, and that root note is a G. Okay, next we're going to play 5-5-5 on the D, G and B strings. And we're just going to bar that with our index finger. You could also play it with your index, middle and ring finger if you want to, like an A chord. Up to you. I like to bar it though. Our second note is a C. So we've got a C major triad here. Okay, now our fourth chord with fourth major chord shape in second inversion would be like a D chord. So we were playing the 5th fret with our index finger, our middle finger is going on the 5th fret of the E string, and then our ring finger is going on the 6th fret of the B string. And this will be our chord. And then our second note here is our root note, and that note is an F, so we're playing an F major triad here in second inversion. Okay, so let's move on to minor chords. We're first of all going to be playing in root position, and minor chords work the same way as major chords, except we've got a minor third rather than a major third. So the shapes are going to be slightly different. Okay, so our root position chord. 5th fret with our little finger on the E string, 3rd fret with our middle finger on the A string, and index finger on the 2nd fret of the D string. And that is going to make our first root position minor chord. And then our root note is the first note. So we are going to be playing an A minor chord here. Okay, so like with all the other ones, we're going to just play the same thing, one string lower here for the A, D and G strings. And our root note is here on the 5th fret, so that is a D, so we're playing a D minor chord, or a D minor triad I should say. Cool. So for the D, G and B strings, we're going to place our ring finger on the 5th fret of the D string, and we're going to bar the 3rd fret of the G and B strings with our index finger. And that is going to make a G minor triad because this root note is a G. Okay, and our 4th root position shape is going to be this one. So we're going to place our ring finger on the 5th fret of the G string, our 2nd finger on the 4th fret of the B string, and our index finger on the 3rd fret of the E string. And we've got a C minor because this root note is a C, so we're playing a C minor triad in root position. Okay, so let's move on to our first inversion. So remember, with our first inversion, our 3rd is in the bass. So let's take a look. So for this first one, we're going to place the 5th, our middle finger on the 5th fret of the E string, and we're going to bar the 4th fret with our index finger on the A and the D strings. Okay, so this highest note here is our root note, and that's an F sharp, so we're playing an F sharp minor triad. Okay, and then the same thing again on the A, D and G strings. Same shape, except this note is a B, so we're playing a B minor triad. Okay. Now let's move down to the D, G and B strings. So we're going to be playing with our middle finger, the 5th fret of the D string. Our index finger is going to be on the 4th fret of the G string, and then our ring finger is going to be on the 5th fret of the B string. And we have a minor triad in first inversion, and this highest note is an E, so it's an E minor. Cool. And then our final first inversion position for our minor triads will be 5-5-5, either barred or played like an A chord like that, on the top 3 strings on the 5th fret. And that highest note there is an A, so we're playing an A minor triad. Cool. Now let's look at the second inversion of the minor triad. So second inversion, as I've said already, has the 5th in the bass. Okay, so our chord is going to look like 5th, root, 3rd. Okay, so ring finger on the 5th fret of the E string, little finger on the 5th fret of the A string, and index finger on the 3rd fret of the D string. And that is our second inversion minor triad. And our second note is our root note, and that is a D, so we're playing a D minor triad there. Okay. Cool. Then we'll move the same thing down again to the A, D and G strings. Same shape, just one string lower, and this second note here is our root note, and that is a G, so we're playing a G minor triad. Okay, and let's move down to the D, G and B strings, and we've got our middle finger on the 5th fret of the D string, our ring finger on the 5th fret of the G string, and our index finger on the 4th fret of the B string. And we've got that second inversion triad. And this second note is obviously our root note, so we are going to be playing a C minor triad. Okay? Now let's move down, and we're going to place our middle finger on the G string, our ring on the 5th fret, and we're going to place our ring finger on the 6th fret of the B string, and our index finger on the 4th fret of the E string. And that is our last second inversion triad shape. And then this second note here is an F. So we're playing an F minor triad. So those are all the triads. So memorize all of those. They'll be really helpful for you to use. And I'd suggest trying to use these triads in place of your standard chords and chord progressions. So let's show you how we can do that. So let's take a standard chord progression: E minor, D, C, G. So I'm going to play E minor, D, C, G. That is our chord progression. So using triads, we can create a second guitar part that will sound quite cool. So first of all, let's take our E minor and play it in root position, and we'll play a triad quite high up. So we'll play an E minor triad in first position up here. So that's 9th fret of the G string, 8th fret of the B string, and 7th fret of the E string. So we've got a E minor triad. Now the next chord was D, so we can use a second inversion and not move our hands very far. And that is a D triad there, 7, 7, 7 on the D, G and B strings. So we've got E minor, D, and then for C we can use a first inversion. So I like to use that one. So we've got 9 on the G string, 8 and 8 on the B and E strings. So we've got E minor, D major, C major, and then I like to use the second inversion of the G major chord, and that's 7, 8, 7 on the G, B and E. So we've got E minor, D minor, D major, sorry, C, G. And we don't have to move our hands very far all over the place. So we can create maybe a lead section like or we could just play some chords to just accompany the lower chords. So and we can even solo with them. So I'm not going to go into soloing too much, but you know that that was just a quick example of creating a melody that could potentially be a solo with those triads for our chords. So yeah, that's everything I've got to give you today on triads. Really learn these because they'll really be useful for creating creative guitar parts, and I hope you enjoyed this lesson. So make sure you subscribe to my channel, like this video, comment to let me know what you thought, and if you feel like supporting my channel, then you can go down into the description and support me via Patreon, and I'll see you in the next video.